Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Howdy, everybody, and a very pleasant good morning to you, wherever you may be. It's a Tuesday morning edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And however you're accessing the program this morning, whether it be on The Zone or on our YouTube page or on TexAgs.com, we appreciate you for joining us along for this ride. It's the furthest away from a college football season, football game we will be all year. 221 days until the Fighting Texas Aggies kick off the 2025 football season. 214 days until Week 0 games get underway on August the 23rd. I'm Richard Zane in the Rollo Insurance Studio, filling in for David Nuno, who will be back in his normal host chair on Wednesday morning. And to my left, here on the desk is Mr. Olin Buchanan, given the weather conditions, the wintry weather conditions outside our office.
They get it.
Well,
look,
not everybody.
there's E. King Gill. He's covered it, he's out there in the snow. Yeah, it's kind of, I hate snow, by the way.
I'm also not a fan of the snow.
I got all the snow I needed to last me the rest of my life, my first winter in Nashville. But so 200, you said 200 how many days?
It's 214 till Week 0 starts, and then A&M starts its season on August the 30th. That's 221 days away.
Fortunately, a strong basketball team and a strong baseball team at Texas A&M is going to make that, that wait go a lot faster, I would think.
They'll kick off the 2025 season against the UTSA Roadrunners at Kyle Field on Saturday, August 30th. But, if Texas A&M baseball does what we expect them to do, or what they're expected to do, projected to do, on the account of them being the top-ranked team in the country, that wait
baseball
becomes super short.
June,
exactly.
And then it'll be like 3 weeks before
SEC Media Days.
SEC Media Days, the worst 4 days of my life of every year. And then,
but hey, this year you get to do it in Atlanta while the MLB All-Star Game's going on in Atlanta the same week.
Oh my! And then like 2 weeks after that, they'll start.
Yep.
August camp. So basically, it's right around the corner.
I do appreciate your what's the word I'm looking for? I like just how you call it August camp. You constantly call it August camp instead of fall camp because it's not in the fall.
It's not in the fall. Does anyone ever walk outside in August and think, what a nice fall day?
Not here.
Yeah, first of all, it's not fall until like September 21st. And the only fall I have is when I feel like I want to fall down from heat exhaustion in August.
And at your age, you might just be doing a lot of falling down the stairs, regardless of what month it is.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I got to get one of those things. So if I fall, I can't get up. I can call somebody to come help me.
You find it a little odd that we're talking about how in August it's going to be 110 degrees and we're going to be sweating our behinds off while it's snowing outside?
Well, it's funny because we've had people move in, they cover A&M. Tony from the Austin American States Forest, he moved down from Massachusetts. I'm telling him, our winter will get cold, but it only lasts for about 6 weeks. And that's the beauty. And these days like this, we only get about 2 or 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. That's
so.
True. And I'm thankful for that because
instead of having
you said earlier,
you don't
like the snow because when you were up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the cold, not a fan of the snow. I don't like it.
It was the first time I ever
when
had
it gets
to actually
wet and cold is the worst part.
The first time when I was up there, I actually had to shovel snow, to clear the driveway. And you want to talk about a crappy job to do.
Never done it.
You never want to. So,
I had never had one.
because down here we would get snow, but we never get so much that you had to shovel your drive and everything. And then up in Tennessee, I had to. And that's a workout, let me tell you.
So did you enjoy the snow before that? Like when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Growing up in East Texas when it was
school.
every now and then?
Well, I was in Dallas back then when I was real little, And we...
back when you were playing quarterback for the Tiger Tigers?
For the Tiger Tigers, yeah. We'd get out of school. So who didn't celebrate a snow day? And then, we go out and I tried to... I made the worst snowman. I could not make a good snowman.
Kids are out.
But you know what? And I wonder if anybody hearing me can remember if their mom did the same, or if my mother, maybe your mother did this too, would make snow ice cream. Have you ever had snow ice cream?
I have not.
Yeah, it was probably bad for us in more ways than just have sugar in it, but it was glorious. Yeah, I'd be interested.
So what is snow ice cream?
I'm not sure, but it's ice cream, and somehow snow is incorporated into it. So if anybody else, maybe it was just our family. It was crazy that would do it. But if anyone else has ever had snow ice cream, text us or let us know.
Yes, 979-693-1150. Not sure who's going to be checking our text messages today.
Yeah.
You saw the best team money could buy win the national championship last night. We've got the best team money can buy here in the studio today. It's a skeleton crew. Richard Zane, Olin Buchanan inside the Rollo Insurance Studio, behind the glass. Mr. Nick Savage, director, producer extraordinaire, answers my text messages when I ask about road conditions. Good morning, Nicholas.
Good morning, y'all. How was the drive in for y'all? Slippery? I know OB's got a truck, so he was fine.
Yeah,
but
no worries.
No,
how was whipping the Lexus? Were you hitting some sweet drifts?
Well, I wasn't whipping the Lexus. I was driving with an abundance of caution this morning, Nick Savage. But no slick spots as far as I could tell. Granted, I didn't drive on every single street here in the Brazos Valley, but it was fine conditions as far as I could tell.
You know what irritates me since Nick the Savage brought this up is people that do move down here, and they'll say, "Oh, you people, y'all don't know how to drive in it, and y'all don't have to know how to drive." And now Tony hadn't said Tony Catalini hadn't said stuff like that, but you've probably heard it before. Oh, well, first of all, yeah. Part of that is because we don't want to. That's why we're here. But back in 2006, I had to cover a game between Texas and Iowa State in Ames in February.
Okay.
And I stayed in Des Moines, and I had to make that 45-mile, and they had a snowstorm. And I had to make that 45-mile drive up to Ames. And as I'm driving, I bet you I counted 24, if not more, cars that were stuck in the median, and I'm like, you don't know how to drive in it either. So quit lying.
I definitely don't know how to drive in the snow. Nick Savage, do you know how to drive in the snow?
Just take it nice and easy. You don't do anything crazy. Put your truck in four-wheel drive if you have it. There you go.
Must be nice. Were you a fan of snow days? Well, did you ever have any snow days growing up?
Did you ever have snow ice cream?
I didn't, no. But yes, I've had snow days, Richard. I'm not a big fan of snow down here, just like UOB. But doesn't it feel like this is like Christmas break and this is the last show of the year or something before we're gone? Just because there's nobody here. It's a guest host. David's out. It's snowing outside. So I don't know. It feels like we're about to be off for 2 weeks. But guess what? We got to come back tomorrow.
Hey, I got a press conference later today.
Yeah, you do. Buzz Williams is speaking before the Ags head up to Oxford. They're taking on Ole Miss in a top 16, right? Because Ole Miss is ranked 16th. Top 16 SEC men's basketball showdown Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Nick, I want to go ahead and say hi to Kay back there. She was waving. Kay Nagley in the house. Just the four of us hanging out here at TexAgs. But you're right, Nick, to that sentiment about it being a ghost town or being Christmas break, it really does feel like that. Like, even though I was driving slower coming down Welborn Road into the office this morning, nobody was around. It felt like a ghost town. The kids are out of school today. Texas A&M canceled classes. I think the local independent school districts did as well. So nobody's really out and about, or wasn't out and about this morning. Granted, the sun wasn't up yet. I don't know if the sun's up yet. But
I had no problems. I moved through it.
Ghost Town.
I moved through it with like it was the A&M run defense.
Did you move through it like it was you were Quinshon Judkins against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish last night?
Yeah, or even Will Howard.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the college football playoff national championship game? The Ohio State Buckeyes claim the title. They're the kings of the college football world. They take down Marcus Freeman, Riley Leonard, and a team that A&M saw to open the season in Atlanta last night.
Well, first of all, look at everybody Ohio State beat on the way. So they certainly earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Best team in college football, you can't deny that. And quite frankly, I think it struck me that they even lost a little bit of interest after they got 31-7, started missing some tackles, and I'll give Riley Leonard all kinds of credit for just willing his team back into it. But I think there was also an element of Ohio State looked like they, for a while, got complacent.
They kind of played with their food in the third and fourth quarter.
And Ohio State scored, I think, on their first 5 times they had the ball.
Yep.
And the 6th time, they were moving and had just had the long completion, and a guy punched the ball out. It was bam, bam, bam. A nanosecond later, and the guy, the receiver, whose name I can't recall right now, his knee would have been on the ground.
The fumble was it was Amika Egbuka.
Okay, so the only other time that Ohio State didn't score, there was one time they
punted.
They punted when they tried to pass on 3rd and 3. I think it was, and it's incomplete. I'm thinking, just line up and run on them. You're bigger than them. You got better running backs. But look, everybody knows I don't like Notre Dame if you listen to this show, but the fact is they would not quit. They showed a lot of heart. If you weren't impressed with Riley Leonard before, you certainly would have been impressed with the way he played last night.
I was impressed with Riley Leonard just after the first drive. Looked like a Stephen McGee out there. 18-play touchdown drive.
And
Riley
had 10 runs on
9 rushes.
9. So I was really impressed with Riley Leonard, as ever. I'm sure everybody was, but Ohio State was. I don't think the game was as close as the final score. I think Ohio State was always in control, and then they got. I think they looked to me like they felt like they had it won, and like I said, started missing some tackles. They had a penalty. I get frustrated with jocks today, football players today, because, and I don't mean to be the old guy the way it used to be, but it does seem like that back in the day we had a better understanding of down and distance. And if it's 3rd and 19 as a defensive back, why would you ever hold? And they held on 3rd and 19, what would have been an incompletion. Turned out to be an easy first down, and Notre Dame went and scored, and that's what turned it into a game again. But
felt like Igbinosun was flagged at least twice, maybe 3 times in that game, and he was the most flagged defensive back in the entire nation.
Right, and that's been their area of greatest concern. Early in the year, they were having some trouble with their offensive line and the running game, and they got that worked out, obviously. But they've been holding receivers all year long. But it's 3rd and 19.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't give it to them. At least make them catch it, right? So, and that allowed Notre Dame to get back in it, and then they had the fumble that led to an. But I just thought Ohio State was easily the better team.
I mean, the teams they went through to win the national championship, the 4 games after they lost to Michigan, 13-10 in Columbus to close the regular season. Of course, I have to bring that up. They blow out Tennessee.
Good Tennessee team.
They embarrass the top-ranked team in the country, Oregon. They were the top-ranked team in the country all year long, 41-21. Texas,
SEC
which had one of the best defenses in the country.
So they beat 2 SEC teams on the way.
And then, like you said it, Olin, it ended up being an 11-point margin of victory. It was a one-score game late, but it never felt that close. It felt at times like Ohio State could have named its score against Notre Dame last night until they got complacent themselves.
Yeah, and maybe they'd say they didn't, and I'm sure they would, because you don't want to take credit away from your opponent. But just as a guy watching it, again, the silly penalties and missed tackles that you weren't missing all game. You know what, though? I'll tell you another guy that I'm Jaden Greathouse, the receiver from Notre Dame, who's from
Austin Wesley.
Yeah, and I think he was Klubnik's top receiver. So I guess was he a junior or a sophomore? I don't know. But I'm wondering, was this guy a Notre Dame lock all along? Because when I see guys from Texas doing well other places, it just makes me want to vomit, especially for an A&M team with struggling at receiver. And I can remember one time talking to somebody who's a recruiting guy, and I was saying, man, I like this Jaden Greathouse. Oh no, he doesn't have this. He's not this. I'm like, you know what? He catches the ball and make plays, and he did it again in the national championship game last night.
That question you raised about Jaden Greathouse and guys getting away and going outside the state to other schools, it was raised about him and A&M and the interest during his recruitment, and Jason Howe actually responded back on our board, said, the Aggies weren't really in pursuit. At the time, his build and questions about his speed had a lot of smart people thinking he was too much of a tweener at wide receiver. He was always a playmaker at Westlake, though, and speed doesn't seem to be an issue tonight. It certainly wasn't.
I'm saying.
Single-handedly got the Irish back in the game. Well, single-handedly, him and Leonard almost got Notre Dame back in the game.
Yeah, so he's a sophomore. Yeah, and I'm always bewildered when I see stuff like that, because I'm like, don't you just like good football players? I mean, are you out there trying to win a track meet? Or you're out there? And I understand the need for speed. I get that. But at some point, you just look and say, but is this guy a good football player? Does he catch the ball? And does he make plays? And, obviously this guy does.
So college football, the 2024 season officially over. We know the Aggies will be facing the national runner-up now instead of the defending national champion in Week 3 when you make a trip to South Bend, Indiana on September the 13th. The only other thing I'd like
my second trip there.
Yeah?
Well, second for a game.
I've been to South Bend for a game before.
Who'd you see?
My dad and I went to see Michigan, Notre Dame. Shea Patterson was the quarterback. It was the year A&M played like a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
And South Bend I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, on a game day.
On a game day.
Yeah,
really.
I was there for 4 days during the spring.
It was September, so it was nice. Like, it wasn't cold, because we've already established I don't like the cold. But I think Notre Dame Stadium was a really cool atmosphere. When was the last time you were there?
Oh, I saw USC beat the living daylights out of them.
What year was that?
Probably 06.
So they've obviously renovated Notre Dame Stadium since then. They've expanded the concourses, and I think they've done a really good job of kind of showcasing the history of their program
as well
on the concourse. So it's cool for a casual fan to like walk up and down. The cool thing that I thought is they've got like the programs, like blown up program posters of every bowl game Notre Dame's been to.
Interesting.
So you could walk around and find a couple Cotton Bowls from when they played the Aggies and stuff like that. They've got a giant play like a champion today thing there. It's well done. And I think a lot of Aggies, if you're planning to make that trip, I would urge you to go because...
Well, Mrs. Buchanan is going to be there. And the funny thing about that is, as we've talked about before, her sister went to school there at Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And they have people that live like in South Bend or there's some town right next to it, kind of like Bryan is to College Station, called like Minneshawa or something some Indian name, Mishika, I don't know, Mikasha, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, so Mrs. Buchanan will actually be staying there in the South Bend, Mikiwasha.
It looks like it's Mishawaka.
Mishawaka. So she's going to be staying there while I will probably be in Chicago with the rest of the TexAgs crew.
Bummer.
Because I believe that you don't, even if it's your wife, you don't leave your crew. You stay with your crew.
So are you, because Irma listens to the show every now and then.
She's probably listening right now.
Is she hearing that you consider your TexAgs crew your crew? She's not your crew?
In that
get you in
context, no, she gets it. Plus, she'd probably rather not have me there anyway. But the fact of the matter is,
that's how I read it. Is she doesn't want you around?
You stick with your crew. It'll be me. It'll be David. It'll be probably Brian, and whoever else they send. And that's who I'm traveling with. That's who I'm covering the game with.
That's your crew.
That's my crew.
That's your crew, and they will all be rolling with Olin.
I am the coxswain to that crew.
I understand the reference. Guys in boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the reference.
Crew is,
yeah.
Some people just call it rowing, but I think they call it crew.
I got it. The other thing that coming out of last night's game that's A&M related, wants you to react to is, did you see what Ross Bjork had to say post-game?
You were reading it to me.
So it's a tweet from Ross Dellinger, and it quotes Ohio State AD, former A&M AD Ross Bjork. He said, quote, "You can have all the money, all the collectives you can have, but if you don't have a foundation of leadership and culture and chemistry, then it's not going to matter. We've seen programs spend a lot of money, some even more than us, and they didn't reach this." So is the man who's been on the job for 7 months taking a shot at his former employer, or is he taking a shot at a conference rival headed by Phil Knight?
It would seem to me that he would be taking that at Phil Knight, because if he's taking a shot at A&M, he was the athletic director there. Well, aren't you in charge of everything? So if there wasn't a culture there, and obviously there wasn't, but whose fault is it? How culpable are you? So don't be casting any stones in glass houses there, if you mean A&M, Ross, because you were here, and if you saw something that you felt like was not a good culture, then what did you do to improve it? Until you fired Jimbo, but then what took so long? If you saw a problem with the culture, maybe I think I might have Ross's phone number. Let me see. I may have to give him a call and ask him about that. Say, what the hell, Ross? Who you talk about A&M?
Olin Buchanan's texting again. Off and running. Already an eventful morning here on TexAgs Live. Go ahead and do some sponsorship, Olin. This is what? This hour is the what?
It's the Go Hour.
The Go Hour presented by who?
CC Creations.
And Maroon has never looked so good with Maroon U. Maroon U is your ultimate stop for brand name apparel, gifts, and accessories for the entire family. Over there in that corner of the studio, you're usually in to start the show with David. You're not with me. That is the what?
That's the Cool Zone.
Presented by
Holistic Planning, where you can get help with your investments, your taxes, and your estate planning. But among those investments is your opportunity to invest in pro sports franchises. And who doesn't want to do that?
Go to investinprosports.com today to learn more. Additionally, Olin, the first segment of the Go Hour is called Coffee Talk, and that is presented by TexAgs Coffee. Make sure to BTHO Morning by going to texags.com/coffee. The News and Social Center, nobody's occupying it. That's presented by
the Angry Elephant, who's not quite so angry these days.
Nick, have I missed anything? Have I got all the sponsorship?
Everything's provided by.
Segment?
I mean, the whole show is sponsored by
David Gardner. I think I got that one off.
Did you get that one in?
I think it got it off at the jump. Yeah,
and then we're in the Rollo Insurance Studio.
Yep, we're coming all the way around.
Jason
going
Rollo
full circle.
and the boys.
Nick, did I miss anything there? Perfect. All right, when we come back here on this edition of TexAgs Live, we'll share our performances of the week. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
8:30 on a Tuesday morning here in Bryan College Station. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane, Olin Buchanan inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. OB, is it ever too early?
Maybe you should be known as Blizzard Zane.
Well,
if I'm Snowlin, you're Blizzard Zane.
But it's not a blizzard outside. Like, it's a dusting.
Okay.
So.
Dusting Zane.
No. Sometimes, though. Depends. Like you when you've had ice cream. Speaking of blizzards.
I like blizzards.
They are. They're great.
Yeah.
You know who else is a fan of blizzards? Stephen McGee. It's our second Stephen McGee
I can believe
reference,
that.
and it's not even a
yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah.
How about that? Hey, is it ever too early for pizza?
No.
You think so?
No.
Well, how about this?
A lot of people like pizza for breakfast.
Do you like cold pizza?
Yeah.
Cold pizza.
Well, but even I like it, but I will if I have pizza, it's cold. I'll put it in the microwave and warm it up a little bit.
Well, you know Double Dave's,
Double
right?
Dave's,
You know
yeah.
Double Dave's. They're the presenting sponsor of the final segment of the show every day. The pizza we're going to give away right now, not cold. Be caller number 12 at 979-693-1150. We'll hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie Land since 1984. Double Dave's Pizza, serving up your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls with reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com and your favorites will be on their way.
So are you going to go for the pizza or are you going to go for the dozen pizza rolls? Which one are you going to
Pepperoni rolls.
Pepperoni
I'm a
rolls,
big
okay.
fan. I'm a huge fan.
All right.
So, what kind of performance could you put in with pepperoni rolls? Like, how many could you eliminate?
Oh, I can't eat as much as I used to. Back in the day, if there was a dozen of them, I'd polish those off by myself and then
Good
get
man.
dessert.
Good
I
man.
can't do that anymore. I could probably get you on a good night, 4 of them.
So I don't think a performance of 4 would
No.
land you on performance of the week.
Yeah, I'd be
but
WEAK.
eating a dozen probably would. With that, do you have
Speaking
a
of a
performance
dozen,
of the
yeah, I
week in mind?
do. I do. And it's not going to be popular, I don't think. But my performance of the week is Wade Taylor being back and scoring 12 points in his first game back and hitting 5 of 6 free throws. We can't understate the importance of that. Look, those are the games I see. Those are the games I watch. And I know there are other guys that played well, but having Wade Taylor back and coming in and scoring and had 4 assists, I think that gets overlooked. But giving you some hope at the foul line again.
5 of 6 at the free throw line.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 4 assists. In the game against Kentucky the Wednesday prior,
Yeah.
A&M as a team, only 4 total assists.
Look, he's a really good player, and I think there were some signs of rust a little bit. On 3 of 13, but he's a really good player, and they're a much better team with him. And I think they'll just get better as he gets back to normal.
His next opportunity to knock off some more rust comes Wednesday night, 8 p.m. in Oxford. The 13th ranked Aggies take on number 16 Ole Miss.
Why do the Aggies get so many late games?
Man, I wish I knew the answer to
It seems like every
Because I
other
would-
game's 8 o'clock or 7:30 or something like that.
Well,
Until Saturday. On Saturday they got it's the 1:30 game.
1:30 in Austin against the
Yeah.
Texas Longhorns. So you'll be up late watching the Ags and Rebels. I'll be up late watching the Ags and Rebels, and we'll see if the Ags can't earn another Quadrant 1A
Got to be a big win.
game
Big
against
win.
Ole Miss. My performance of the week, OB, I'm going to keep it on the hardwood,
Oh,
and
you're
I'm
gonna keep-
also going to go with your dozen theme.
Okay.
How about 12 fourth quarter points from Aisha Coulibaly last Thursday?
Okay, I'm with it.
She scored 12 of her 14 points in
And a
Texas
come-from-behind
A&M's
victory, right?
come-from-behind victory as Joni Taylor and company beat Georgia at Reed Arena. That final score, 68-63. 12 of A&M's 22 fourth quarter points. She was 4 of 7 from the field, perfect 4 for 4 in the fourth quarter. Clutch Coulibaly, as we're calling
Clutch,
her.
cool. I like that.
And she'll get a chance to be clutch yet again as the Aggies welcome a top 15 opponent to Reed Arena on Thursday night. Number 11 Kentucky comes to town, 6 p.m. Central Time. See, there's not a late game, but not an early game either on Thursday.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about
That's
more,
the early window on Thursdays for
when
women's
when I'm covering the men's team.
Yeah,
it seems like I'm always got the late game.
Yeah, you do always have the late game. How about this, OB? Why don't we hit a break
Let's do
here?
that.
And when we come back, we'll go out to the Boss Firearms hotline and chat with Charean Williams of Pro Football Talk, the Hall of Fame writer. I'm sure you've
One
got
of my favorite people.
plenty of questions about where the Cowboys and their coaching search is headed. We'll talk to Charean next on the other side of this break here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Ted Nugent, the Nuge.
Cat scratch fever, Olin Buchanan?
Yeah.
Richard Zane, Olin Buchanan inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. OB, Nick Savage is efforting Charean Williams, trying to get her on the line, trying to talk to the Pro Football talk and the Pro Football Hall of Fame writer Charean Williams here on this segment on TexAgs Live. I know you've got a lot of Cowboys questions to ask
Always
her.
do. You know, when I worked at the Eagle, I replaced Charean Williams. I was replaced by Brent Zerneman.
Well,
you talk about a dip in productivity there. You know,
I mean,
a Hall of Famer, and then Brent.
I'm assuming Cease made all three of those hires, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. I'll give him credit. So, I was right there between two of the best.
When it comes to your Cowboys, Nick Savage just told me we do have Charean
Williams.
Here on TexAgs Live, our phone line is brought to you by Boss Firearms, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammos, and accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com to start earning money like a boss today. And, of course, on the Boss Firearms hotline, we find Charean Williams of ProFootballTalk.com. And, Charean, I know Olin's got Cowboy questions to ask you, but first, can you please help this heartbroken Lions fan make sense of what I went through and witnessed on Saturday night?
Oh, what a bummer that was. Just really, really a bummer. I thought they were going to get it done this year, and they had the team to do it. Just too many defensive injuries. I think that's really what it came down to, and they just couldn't stop. Couldn't stop them. And Jaden Daniels is playing great. He's not playing like a rookie, that's for sure. And I just think that Jaden Daniels playing better than Jared Goff was the difference. You can't turn the ball over as many times as Jared Goff and the Lions turned it over and expect to win a playoff game against a good team, and that's what Washington has become. So Cowboys fans are going to be sitting at home, Olin, watching the Commanders and the Eagles play for the NFC Championship. So there's probably not much that could be worse than that.
Yeah, typically when those two teams play, I'm just rooting for injuries. But, look, I want the Bills to win the Super Bowl. Tell me what you feel like. How good a chance is that?
How good of a chance is it for
the Bills? I want the Bills to win it because there's no way I'm going to root for anybody in the NFC.
Me too. Well, I'm rooting for the Bills too. I mean, they've never won one. It'd just be really cool to see them win a Super Bowl. I'm with you. I want the team that's never won it to win one. For those fans, as diehard as they are, sitting out in that cold weather, they got a chance. I mean, I just don't think the Chiefs have, you keep thinking this luck thing is going to come back to bite the Chiefs in the butt at some point. You just can't get that lucky all year long, but they've managed to do it game after game after game, and here they sit in a championship game once again. It's really hard to do what they've done, and I do appreciate what they've done, but I'm also kind of tired of them. I'm ready to see somebody else get in there and win it. So the Bills have a chance. I hope that they're able to get Taylor Rapp back. I think that was a big loss in the second half the other day. He has a hip injury, and he's considered day-to-day, but I didn't like the looks of it when he was carted off. I think that's a big injury. And then Christian Benford got hurt on the onside kick. He has a concussion, so who knows if he's going to clear concussion protocol. So it's the same deal. You got a couple injuries on defense that you're a little bit worried about. Matt Milano wasn't in there at the end of the game, and Sean McDermott wasn't saying yesterday why he wasn't in there. So, again, some defensive injuries that could come back to bite you. So if those guys can play, or if they have enough defenders, I think they've got a good chance to beat the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game, and it's going to come down to the play of the quarterback. And both those quarterbacks are fantastic. Josh Allen has played better than Patrick Mahomes this year, but Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. So I just think that's going to be a great game.
Are you buying into the I don't want to call it a theory, the accusations that the officials are protecting Patrick Mahomes?
No, but it's a bad look for the NFL because it keeps happening. And, I think now the Chiefs have 5 roughing the quarterbacks in the playoffs in their history, and their opponents had 0. So it's just a bad look for the NFL because, a bunch of those hits just weren't what the officials thought they were. And the first one, it was a bad call, but based on the rules, they're told to protect the quarterback and when in doubt, throw the flag. And so he thought he saw a helmet-to-helmet hit, and so he threw the flag there on Will Anderson. So I don't mind that one as much, but the one where, Patrick's trying to bait people into getting flags is just, it's too much. And they need to tell him that. And hopefully they have this week that we're not going to tolerate this. He slid late, and they didn't even touch him, really. They hit each other.
Yeah.
And then the one out of bounds when he was trying to draw the flag was even more. Patrick Mahomes is too good to do stuff like that. That's just not what a quarterback of his caliber should be trying to do in this league. And again, I hope they talk to him this week and told him to cut out all that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting the way, like Cam Newton, they would let him be just assaulted on a weekly basis. And it seems like, and I'm not a Texans fan, I'm ambivalent, but it sure seems like they got some, they got hosed, it seems like to me. So, all right, Cowboys, who's going to be the coach? Come on, place your bets.
Kellen Moore, I think, is the next coach of the Cowboys. We talked about it's either familiarity. It's the 8 head coach hires that he's made. It's either familiarity or it's a former head coach, or both. I mean, Barry Switzer was familiar to him and a former head coach. There's some of that. Shane Gailey is the closest he's ever come to hiring a hot coordinator, but Shane Gailey had head coaching experience in the college ranks at 2 different schools and with the Birmingham Fire of the World League or whatever it was called at that time. So, it's going to be one of those 2 categories. The fact that they didn't talk to Ben Johnson was not a surprise to me. Jerry hasn't changed his ways. It hasn't worked for 30 years, but no one could seem to tell Jerry that the way he's been doing it for the last 30 years is not the way to do it, and they're going to do the same old thing that they've been doing. So I think it's the familiar coach, and I think it's Kellen Moore as the next coach of the Cowboys. And it'll be interesting to see if he's ready to be a head coach. I don't know if he is or not. I don't know that they can know whether he is or not, but he's a familiar face to him. And look at the length of the contract when he signs it, whether it's 4 years or 5 years. I know Jerry will probably push for a 4-year deal. We know he doesn't like buying out contracts, so whatever the length of that contract is, that's how long that coach is going to be there.
So I just wish you could have seen the facial expressions and mannerisms that Olin Buchanan just went through during that answer. He was sprawled out on the desk in disbelief at one point.
I'm not in disbelief, but it's definitely disdain. Kellen Moore was with the Cowboys before, right? Correct.
He was with the Cowboys. He was with the Cowboys as a player and as a coach. Yes. What did you say? 4 years.
Just like last year, right? When was he last with the Cowboys?
Say it again.
When was he last with the Cowboys as offensive coordinator?
2 years ago. So he was with the Chargers for 1 year. Chargers was 1 year, and Eagles this year. So 2 years ago he was there.
So the
2 seasons ago.
Did they fire him? The Cowboys? Did the Cowboys fire him?
They had a mutual agreement where he left, and whether that was more him or more the Cowboys, it was a mutual agreement for him to leave. It was McCarthy wanted to call the plays, and McCarthy convinced Jerry that if his job was on the line, that he should be able to do that. If they wanted to take another step in the playoffs, that it should be McCarthy calling the plays, and so that's how it happened. They mutually agreed to part ways there, and Kellen went on his way. So Jerry, it was not Jerry's call. It was Mike McCarthy's call. Mike McCarthy was ready for Kellen to move on, and I think Kellen was probably ready to move on from Mike McCarthy. So that's how that played out. So there's they probably have a little bit wounds to heal there, but it was more McCarthy than Jerry, so there was not a lot of stuff to heal there.
Charean, thanks so much for making some time with us this morning. I know it was short, and I know it wasn't the news Olin wanted to hear, but we appreciate it.
I could talk to you all day, Charean. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I love talking to you guys. It's the highlight of my day, so appreciate you having me on.
Of course, we'll talk to you next week, Charean. Thanks so much. Hall of Fame writer Charean Williams joining us on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Olin, when we come back on the other side of this break, we'll close down the Go Hour presented by CC Creations. You're listening to TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Less than 90 seconds on this segment as we wrap up the Go Hour on this Tuesday edition of TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Olin, you're doing your favorite thing later this afternoon, and that's writing advances. ahead of Texas A&M and Ole Miss on Wednesday night. What do you have an angle in mind for today's story before you go hang out with Buzz this afternoon?
I don't know. I'm still thinking about what is the angle on that game. Maybe you can help me out with it other than going on the road again.
Upstart.
Like Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Well,
going on the road.
Two very experienced teams.
Ole Miss is good, man. I mean, they beat Alabama.
Very good. It is a good team.
And they lost their last game against Mississippi State. Hopefully it'll be one of those where they were still thinking about that. But I think A&M is good enough. If A&M's on their game, and if Wade's playing at the level he's capable, and all up are, then A&M's they're good enough to beat anybody. They don't need help. They don't need the other team thinking about their last game.
It's a top 16 matchup, 13 A&M, 16 Ole Miss. That'll be a Wednesday night, 8 p.m. game. OB, thanks so much for helping me get through this hour of radio, and we will continue the basketball talk on the other side at the top of the 9 o'clock hour when we are joined by TexAgs basketball correspondent Justin Lanham here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Top of the 9 o'clock hour here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. However you're accessing the program this morning, whether it be on KZ&E or on YouTube or on TexAgs.com, we thank you and appreciate you. Here's a little rundown of the schedule of what to expect. In just a moment, we'll go out to the Boss Firearms video hotline, chat with Justin Lanham. Next segment, we expect to be talking to Texas A&M women's basketball head coach Joni Taylor. At 9:30, we should be checking in with former Texas A&M baseball player J.B. Moss. Top of the 10 o'clock hour, we'll review the college football playoff national championship game with TexAgs co-owner and executive editor Billy Liucci. And then at the bottom half of the 10 o'clock hour, we're chatting with former Texas A&M baseball All-American Scott Livingstone. So with that, no further ado, let's hop out to the Boss Firearms video hotline and chat with our man Justin Lanham, TexAgs basketball correspondent. JT, Justin Lanham, Ags pick up a big victory over LSU on Saturday night. Wade Taylor comes back. Just how big of a victory was it for Buzz Williams and company?
Yeah, I think it was a big win. You know, I think you obviously get Wade Taylor back, get him back in action. That's good. Just kind of knock off some of that rust. Obviously, there's going to be some of that there. But I think the most important thing is you took care of home court. And, you know, we know and now understand how important that is in SEC play of just how tough it is to win on the road. So you definitely have to take care of business there at home. There was definitely a little bit of worry in the first half. You know, it's tied up there going into the break. And then, you know, LSU kind of got out to a little bit of an early lead there in the second half. And so obviously A&M was able to right that ship and just kind of get back in control of that game. And so it was good, like I said, just to get guys back in the flow of things with Wade Taylor in the game.
A few things to unpack from what you said just there. Wade Taylor making his return, 12 points, 3 of 12 from the field, 5 of 6 at the free throw line. Not his best showing. We'll talk about Wade a little bit more. Maybe you talked about knocking off the rust. We'll talk about maybe a little bit, maybe some lingering signs of the injury. I don't know. See what you saw. But then you said it was close, 30-30 at halftime, but you pull away late to win by 11. And then the other thing, protecting home court. A&M now 2-1 at home in the SEC. The lone loss to one of the best teams in the league, Alabama, a week and a half ago. So let's start with Wade. Did you see any signs of an injury still hobbling him, or do you think it was a lot of just trying to get back in the swing of things, getting used to game fitness, game speed? You know, he missed 3 games, and I don't know how quickly that can go out the window, but I imagine it can go pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think I feel like just from watching, I'll be honest, like he didn't look like completely himself. And again, I think part of that is just the rust. Like I want to believe and do believe that, you know, Buzz talks about how he's not going to put guys out there unless they're fully healthy. And so, you know, I do believe that and trust that. And so I think he's fully healthy. I think some of it was just kind of knocking off the rust and getting back into, you know, swing of things. Like he's not hopping into a non-conference game against ACU. He's hopping into a conference game against LSU at home on a Saturday night. And so you're probably going to see that rust a little bit more versus him playing a non-conference game where, you know, it's not as big of a competition, right? So I do think that obviously it is a little worrisome, just like, is that going to continue to nag him throughout the season? Like if he just barely tweaks it, but hopefully he's ready to go and hopefully we can have him the rest of the season.
Just 24 minutes for Wade Taylor IV on Saturday night. I believe that was his second lowest number of minutes played in a game, at least the ones that he actually played in, because we did miss 3 games before coming back to action against LSU. I still don't think we've seen a dominant Wade Taylor performance, a vintage Wade Taylor performance that we've become so accustomed to over the years. So now that the injury is behind him, and Buzz Williams and Wade Taylor both said post-game on Saturday that they weren't going to rush him back, they weren't going to let him step on the floor until he was 100%. How confident are you that we can see Wade Taylor revert back to being the dominant player we know he can be and he has been in the past?
No, I'm definitely confident in it. One thing, Richard, that I didn't say that I wanted to say is I do feel like obviously he's probably on some minute restrictions, right? Like you just see him coming out probably normally when he wouldn't come out, right? And so it's just kind of, hey, at the 4-minute mark, let's get him out. Okay, let's get him back in at the 12-minute mark or whatever it is. They've already got him on some of those minute restrictions. So I think as he gets completely just put back into this lineup where he has 0 restrictions, I think you can plan on seeing a dominant performance from him. We've always talked about it. Like whenever the moment is the biggest, that's whenever you see Wade Taylor step up. And so we know looking at this schedule, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for big moments for Wade Taylor.
speaking of dominant performances, you saw one from an Aggie without Wade Taylor in the lineup. I'm talking about Zurich Phelps and his 23 points and that comeback victory over Oklahoma. That was Wade Taylor's first game that he missed with the injury. Then you had really key contributions from guys like Pharrell Payne. He's been one of the most efficient players in the entire nation since, I believe, the last 6 games prior to Saturday night. Without Wade Taylor in the lineup, and we're hopeful that he doesn't have to miss a single game the rest of the year, and I will go ahead and knock on this wooden desk right in front of me. Who has been Texas A&M's MVP during that 3-game stretch? The Aggies went 1-2 during that 3-game stretch. But in addition to that question, so the MVP question, who's been the MVP, not named Wade Taylor, what confidence do you have that A&M is capable of winning big games in the SEC should Wade Taylor have to miss any more time? Or anybody else has to miss any more time?
Yeah, I'll say this, Richard. I'm not usually big on like co-awards, but I think I'm probably going to scoot out of this one by giving a co-award. I think Zurich and Payne are definitely guys that you just have to say that they both just really contributed a ton whenever Wade was out. And it's hard to say which one because they both have stepped up big in different games. And so Zurich has obviously been able to make big shots and make big plays. Like he's your playmaker inside. And then you can obviously see that our offense the offense has changed of getting the ball into Payne, and getting him touches inside and just counting on him to be able to hit the little baby hook over his left and right shoulder. So I think that that's encouraging to see, again, hopefully we don't have to see an A&M basketball squad that's missing Wade Taylor again. But if not, you asked the question, how confident am I in these guys, ability to get this done? I think you saw in the Alabama game, like just how they competed to the wire. Obviously, you come up short in that game, but that's an Alabama team that has every bit of the capability to win a national championship, and you're going toe-to-toe with those guys. And so, to me, I have confidence. Again, just praying that doesn't have to happen, that we have a healthy Wade Taylor. But I do think that I have confidence in those guys to go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Granted, I haven't watched much of Auburn yet. They haven't played A&M. I haven't seen much of Tennessee. I plan on watching their game tonight. They're playing a top 20 game. But as far as teams I've seen and actually seen in person, Alabama, to me, looks like the most gifted athletically and a team that is really built to repeat their Final Four appearance they had a year ago. You mentioned a moment ago about things that are encouraging from Payne and Phelps and Taylor, all three being back. I want to kind of go ahead and flip it to something that's discouraging, and that's the fact that we have to talk about free throw woes yet again. 9 of 21 on Saturday night. That is I have the number right in front of me, 42.9%. If you take away Wade Taylor's 5 of 6, that is 3 of 15. That number drops to 20%. So the question is, how concerned are you that the Aggies can change this trend into this trend of ineptitude at the line?
Yeah, it's definitely discouraging. I'll say that. And it's of concern to me because once you're shooting like that, once you're shooting percentages like that from the free throw line, to me now the margin on defense, the margin you're talking about of like the rebounding, that gets smaller, right? And so if you're knocking down shots from the free throw line, your margin of error can go up, right? Versus if you're not hitting those, and so that's definitely of concern to me. I think that they have the ability to get that right, but it's definitely a concern to me. I think I've said this on past shows of just how whenever you are not shooting well from the free throw line, that trend can continue. More than I think it's easier for it to continue than for it to get better. I'll say that. So a lot of the times, just because it comes down to confidence, and to me, it's just a matter of getting reps. That's what you have to do, and I know they're doing that. But to me, it's just a confidence thing, and that definitely scares me.
So, what as a coach can be done to mitigate this trend to keep it from becoming something that's permanent?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to really trust those guys and instill trust in them that you have faith that they can go to the charity stripe and knock down shots, right? I think I've talked on previous shows too about putting them in practice in situations where they have to make shots whenever, make free throws whenever, the game is on the line, or whenever it's a close game or something like that. You've got to put them in stressful situations, right? And so that whenever it comes to the game, they've already been in those situations. And so to me, it's just getting them into the gym, getting those shots. And whether that's, hey, guys, you've got to make meaningful free throws. It's not, hey, just go up and put 100 free throws up. They're actual meaningful free throws in practice.
We're chatting with Justin Lanham, TexAgs basketball contributor on the Boss Firearms video hotline. Justin, A&M's 3-2 in its first 5 SEC games, currently ranked 13th in the latest AP and coaches polls. They're also tied for 5th. With I believe it's 6 other teams in the SEC at 3-2, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. How would you grade A&M's start to the SEC? And understanding that Auburn looks like one of the best teams in the country, they're currently ranked number 1 in the nation as well, and there are 5 teams ranked ahead of you in this current AP poll. What is the realistic final standing for the Ags now that we're 5 games into this conference schedule?
Yeah, I think variables play into this, and what I mean by that is like looking. If you would have told me, we're 3-2 and we missed Wade Taylor for a lot of those games, like I would tell you, I'm pretty pleased with that. Also knowing that you've played a Kentucky team, an Alabama team, an OU, and a Texas team, so very pleased with where they're at right now. Do I think that they can stay kind of where they're at and actually improve? Yeah, absolutely. I think that when all is said and done, like I expect them to be in the top 5 in the conference whenever this thing is completely done. So again, the variable that I talk about is like if Wade's healthy, like I feel very confident in this team. And I know I just said before that I feel confident even if Wade's not, that these guys can go toe to toe. But we all know, like whenever you miss a guy like Wade Taylor, that's a preseason All-American and has all the accolades that he has, like that's not easy to overcome, so I think that moving forward, if the Ags have Wade Taylor, I feel very confident that this A&M team can finish in the top 5 of this league.
We also know that with Wade Taylor and without Wade Taylor, every single night in this conference is going to be a dogfight. You might look at Texas A&M's upcoming schedule and see some games that they should win, but you can't count W's, and that begins Wednesday night with this road trip to Oxford to face number 16 Ole Miss, a team that's currently ahead of you in the SEC standings after their 4-1 start. What have you seen from Chris Beard's team that you think might give the Ags some trouble come Wednesday?
Yeah, you said it. This is going to absolutely be a dogfight, just because Chris Beard teams, as well as he's got Mark Adams back on his staff from whenever he was at Texas Tech. That's his defensive guru. And so that's exactly what they're going to be. They're going to be a defensive team. They held Alabama, who we know is averaging like 90-plus points a game. They held them to like 64 when they beat them by 10. So that's concerning to me because I know that we don't have the offense that Alabama has, right? And so that's definitely concerning. They're going to be a no-middle defense team, kind of like A&M in the sense of they're going to make you throw skip passes to the backside. And just make you hit shots from outside. And so that is of concern to me as well, because we know that this A&M team is very inconsistent from beyond the arc and shooting. And so to me, it's like, where is the offense going to come from? Something that I would like to see from the Aggies is them getting out in transition and running and trying to get easy buckets before Ole Miss is able to set up that defense. Because if you know anything about Chris Beard and Mark Adams, you know that they're going to be a very, very good half-court defense team.
And they're so experienced. It's a lot of names that A&M fans might be familiar with, whether it be Brakefield or Murray or all of these different guys that really came into Reed Arena last year and beat you on your home floor. And now they're a year more experienced in this system with Chris Beard and the defensive system that's given so many teams troubles. A&M's really going to have to be on its A game to leave the pavilion with what I imagine will be a hard-fought SEC road victory. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what's scary is some of these coaches, like I talked about Mark Pope the last time I was on, about how I feel like what he's doing at Kentucky so early on is just crazy, because you know that if any of those guys stay, and just even talking about this season, they're just going to continue to get better. Chris Beard had some success early on already last year, especially early on in non-conference play. I don't think they played as tough a schedule, but he definitely had them going. And then now you get those guys back, and the caliber of coach that Chris Beard is, like, that's really scary to think about, that he's going to have those guys for multiple years, being able to develop them. And we've seen what he was able to do at Texas Tech, how he developed players over there at Texas Tech. So if he's able to do that at Ole Miss, like, Ole Miss can definitely be a juggernaut moving forward.
Beard, obviously, in his second year as the Ole Miss head coach. Prior to that, he was the head coach at the University of Texas. Now, I'm not suggesting that the players, the coaches, the staff inside Texas A&M's basketball program are looking ahead beyond Wednesday's game to a Saturday rivalry showdown in Austin. But, Justin, I think that's okay for us, especially since you're not going to be joining the TexAgs Live audience for the rest of the week. I know you and Luke Evangelist probably have a read report in the plans for later this week to set the scene for the Lone Star Showdown. But what's going to be key for A&M to ensure that they can come out of the other side of this weekend with the Lone Star Showdown series sweep?
Well, I think it's just talking about adjustments, especially defensively for this Buzz Williams coach team. And the reason I say that is because obviously A&M relies heavily on making teams shoot from outside. They don't allow teams to really get inside the paint and score inside that much. But I would almost have to say that you got to alter that a little bit in the sense of Texas shoots a lot of threes and they make a lot of threes. And so to me, that's something that Texas did not do that great against the Ags the first time. And so to me, you've got to kind of try to replicate that. I know that they're going to look to shoot the ball. They're definitely going to probably shoot the ball better, being as it's in Austin at home court advantage. They're definitely probably going to shoot the ball better. So to me, it's just putting pressure, making them get off of the 3-point line and making them very uncomfortable when they catch and they don't have 10 toes right there on the 3-point line. Expect Texas to shoot better, but you should also expect A&M to shoot better than they did in that first matchup. They made just 2 3-pointers in that 20-point victory. That stat still blows my mind. 20-point SEC win, you only made 2 triples. That's nuts. Yeah, something that I would like to see too moving forward, because I think you saw a little bit of a breakout game, I would say, was for CJ Wilcher, like this past game. Like, I hope that Buzz can insert him a little bit more. I know you definitely give up a little bit on the defensive end with him. I get that. We all see that at sometimes, but I think you've got to instill him on the offensive end, just with Zurich, with Wade. If you have him out there, I really like our offense with him. So I think that he just gives you something that some of the other guys don't. So hopefully I think he got 15 minutes of clock, last game. And so maybe we can even see that go up to 20 minutes. 9 points on 3 of 6 from the field. All 3 of those shots were triples for CJ Wilcher, his highest scoring output in an SEC game so far. And Justin, as far as I'm concerned, I think that just goes back to Wade Taylor being back on the floor, his ability to distribute the basketball, and teams having to give him the respect that the former preseason SEC Player of the Year deserves. Justin, appreciate you taking the time to join me this morning, my brother. A&M, Ole Miss, 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. We'll catch you later on TexAgs this week with a read report. And thanks, my man. Thanks, Richard. Enjoyed it. Of course, that's Justin Lanham. Appreciate him taking the time to join us on the Boss Firearms video hotline. When we come back on this edition of TexAgs Live, hopefully we'll have Texas A&M women's basketball head coach Joni Taylor on the other side. They've got a couple of top 15 matchups this week, so we'll hear from her, hopefully from her on the other side. Don't go anywhere. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane inside the Rollo Insurance Studio, wasting no time as we go back out to the Boss Firearms Hotline, where we are joined by Texas A&M women's basketball head coach Joni Taylor. Good morning, Coach. How is the snow day, this rare snow day in Aggieland, treating you and the family?
Our girls are enjoying it. They are running around the house, deciding what they're going to do with a little bit of snow that has accumulated outside. Our dogs running around playing in it, so they're having themselves quite the blast.
Awesome. Maybe a snowball fight or a snowman in the works at the Taylor household, it sounds like. Coach, you guys haven't played since last Thursday. It was a 68-63 victory over Georgia. We'll get to that in a moment, but how beneficial has it been to have this week of rest for you and your program as y'all prepare for back-to-back top 15 matchups?
It has been really good for a lot of reasons. We always end up having 2 byes at some point during our season, playing a 16-game schedule. We've done that for years. I think what's unique about the bye this time around is that we actually had a Sunday off. Normally our byes in the past have come on a Thursday night. And so to be able to have a Sunday off gives us a good chance to get some work in. So we worked really hard Saturday, Sunday, took off yesterday, and now we're back to a normal schedule. Actually bumped practice up a little bit today because of the weather. But it gave us a chance to rest some of our players who need it with some nagging injuries. And then you rarely get a chance during the season to work on yourself. Everything is scout, prep, play, scout, prep, play. Having this bye allowed us to continue to have some continuity, to have some flow, and to continue to take the next step in the right direction as it relates to just progressing as a team and getting better.
Seems like this bye, the first one's pretty early in your conference schedule. You're 5 games into an 18-game conference slate. What challenges come with knowing that it was your last week off essentially before you have to play a month straight of 2 games per week until you get to the middle of February?
Well, I think it's what happens in this league. We've had an early bye before. For us, it came at the perfect time. We needed to have a little bit of a break considering the grueling schedule we had on the front end. So we're fortunate and we're happy about where our bye fell. And then, we've got to bear down and be able to go Thursday, Sunday, Monday in some cases, or Monday, Thursday, Sunday, rather. It's what the league does. It's what we're used to. And it's also why we in the non-conference go play 3 games in a row in an MTE where we are used to having that kind of grind.
Going back to last Thursday's victory and Clutch Koulibaly, AC scoring 12 fourth-quarter points, including 7 of your team's final 8. What did you see from her in that stretch, and how are y'all going about trying to bottle that up to make it a more consistent thing from AC?
I just think she had some timely plays in the fourth quarter on both sides of the ball. It starts with her getting a steal. The person she was guarding just actually in the backcourt slipped and fell, and AC was able to capitalize on to get a steal to a layup. That translated into us getting another steal back-to-back. She was able to make a key basket, and then I had been telling her all game long, hey, listen, it's going to open up for you. It's going to open up for you. Keep doing the little things. Keep crashing the glass. They're going to try to keep you from catching the ball, but when the shot goes up, they cannot box you out. And so she goes in and makes a timely play, gets an offensive rebound to a tip and an and one, and just ignited us in that fourth quarter. I think in terms of her bottling that up, AC knows that she's going to be the opponent's number one priority every Thursday, every Sunday. And so it's how else can you make a play? How else can you get yourself involved? Because she literally can affect the game on both sides of the ball every single possession. And so it's continuing to tell her, hey, just stay with it, be consistent. It's going to open up. You don't know when that's going to come. It could come in the first quarter. It could come in the second quarter. It could come in the last 2 minutes of the game. But it will not come if you don't stay locked in and if you don't stay positive and you don't stay focused. And so I think for her, it's continuing to tell her those things and teaching her and coaching her through all those moments.
You'll likely need some more AC dominance this week as you play number 11 Kentucky before going to number 5 LSU. Coach, you've been in the SEC for a long time, whether it was at Georgia or before that as an assistant. We talk about it in almost every sport with the SEC, but since you've been in this league, where does the top-end talent and then the depth of top-end talent rank in this league compared to years past?
Man, this year it's definitely it has happened before, but it has been a long time since you can go 1 through 16 and say, like every single night, you've got yourself a challenge. And I think that happens consistently every year because of just the coaches in this league and how talented they are, the players in this league and how talented they are. If you have an off night, you can get caught slipping. I think we know that no matter what the league looks like. But in terms of just talent in this league, the number of teams ranked, the absolute dominance that we've had this year as it relates to our conference and just what we've done nationally, I would have to go back quite a while to think about the last time from top to bottom we were really, really this good.
It'll be 6 of your first 7 games against ranked opponents. The 6th game will be against Kentucky. Your 6th conference game will be against Kentucky on Thursday night. 6 p.m. tip against Reed. The Wildcats come to town, ranked 11th in the country. Coach, what are the keys to success for your team in this matchup specifically?
Well, it starts with Georgia A. She's a point guard that came to Kentucky with Kenny Brooks when he left Virginia Tech and got the job. She is dynamic. She will get drafted this year. She's fun to watch, so fun to have to scout her and prepare against. Just a dynamic point guard that is an electrifying scorer, but also gets and creates momentum and plays and scoring opportunities for her teammates. And so we've got to make sure that we keep her in front of us. Heavy chest to the ball is going to be our emphasis with her, going over screens because she's quick to shoot it, and not having to have a lot of help, because when we have to rotate and help situations with her, that's when she's able to spray the ball out and make passes to her other teammates, and they do an excellent job of shooting the basketball and finding their spots. And so we can't get caught up in rotation situations where we're coming off of other players, because her vision as a point guard is so good, she finds them every single time. We've also got to make sure that we are smart about the shots we're taking. Believe it or not, Kentucky leads the country in block shots a game. At one point, they were blocking 10 shots a game. They're very, very big. And so defensively, their guards, run you into the paint and trick you into thinking you have an open lane, and then their forwards come and just kind of protect the rim. So we've got to be smart about the shots we take once we get 2 feet in the paint. We've got to play off of 2 feet and use our pivots to get them up or to make the next pass, draw the defense, and then pass it back out. So shot selection, and then just containing Georgia A. because she's the head of the snake. They've got several players that are really good, but it starts with her.
Coach, thanks so much for making some time for us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon. And good luck this week.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's Texas A&M women's basketball head coach Joni Taylor on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Texas A&M versus Kentucky. The 11th-ranked Wildcats come to Aggie Land Thursday night, 6 p.m. on the SEC Network. We'll see if the Ags can pull off a marquee upset victory and keep the good vibes rolling. When we come back here on TexAgs Live, we'll be talking some baseball with former Texas A&M baseball player J.B. Moss here on TexAgs Live. Hard to believe we're already halfway home on this edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane inside the Rollo Insurance Studio, and opening day for Texas A&M baseball is just 24 days away. With that in mind, you know it's time once again to go to the Boss Firearms Hotline, and we are joined now by former Texas A&M baseball player J.B. Moss. Jibs, what's up, my man?
Zane, how we doing, buddy? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing all right, other than the fact that I'm not a big fan of the cold, and we're experiencing a wintry mix here in College Station today. You ever played baseball in the snow?
I've never played baseball in the snow, but I did see Kyle Field had some snow on it. It looks pretty awesome.
It's pretty hard to believe that, you know, the weather outside right now, it's a little frightful, but in just, 3.5 weeks, we're going to be back at Bluebell Park, right?
Yeah, it's an exciting time for sure. I can't believe it's already here. We were just packing up our things in Omaha.
Yeah, so where is your excitement level at ahead of the 2025 campaign? The Aggies are preseason number 1, coming off a season where they were the national runner-up. If you could take us back to your playing days, what was it like getting ready for a season in these final few weeks before opening day?
Yeah, well, first I would tell you that my excitement level is at an all-time high. I mean, like you mentioned, you're 2 runs away from winning the national title, and then you start the next season, preseason number 1. I think the fan support, the encouragement, and the talent are at an all-time high in Aggie land. So I really couldn't be more excited to see what this team does in 25. And just to talk about, like you asked, what it's like, I would say after the Christmas break, you come back and you're doing a little bit of skill work, and then you're just scrimmaging a lot. The pitchers have to get their arms in shape, and as hitters, you want to see as much live pitching as possible before you start the season. So you're really just trying to get timing down and get hot at the right time and start the season off on the right track.
This is kind of a build-up to a season that we've never really experienced before in College Station, right? Because they were so close to winning the program's first national title in June. As the preseason polls and rankings start to come out, you're starting to see such lofty projections for the Ags. And while that's not surprising, it's just not anything we've ever seen before where they've entered the season ranked number 1. You've been a part of a top-ranked ball club during your time at A&M, albeit it wasn't to start the year. But how do you go about managing those expectations once you're gifted or given a number 1 beside your name?
Yeah, I would just tell you that, it's cliche, but you just take it one day at a time, especially in this league, because, there's so many other teams in the SEC that are also highly ranked. And, if you don't take this one day at a time, you're going to look up and you're going to get swept, and you're not going to have that number 1 ranking very long. I'll never forget my junior year. We were newly minted number 1, and we go to Florida, and sure enough, we get swept and lost the number 1 ranking. So it's really about keeping your head down and understanding that, Rob Childress would always tell us that you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. You're always somewhere in the middle. So I feel like that kind of kept us grounded and kept us humble, and just, take this one bat at a time. And that's kind of how you have to handle it.
You mentioned Coach Childress. Is there anything extra, he would say or do when you were ranked so highly to keep you focused on the game itself rather than the outside noise?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say what I just said, kind of, you're never as good as you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. You just, like I said, it's one day at a time in this gauntlet, in this league. And, the people that are quick to, pat you on the back are just as quick to kind of hop off the bandwagon. So you just kind of have to, stick with your brothers and do the best you can one day at a time.
A lot of people hopping on this Texas A&M bandwagon ahead of the 25 season. A&M's preseason ranked number 1. They've got one of the most talented rosters in the entire country in Michael Early's first season. So what has you most intrigued about this specific ball club? Which areas are you most confident in, and which areas kind of give you some reason for concern before we get the game started up?
Yeah, I would tell you that I would say the talent is overwhelming for sure for Mike Early in year 1. I would say I'm most intrigued about, I say it every year, it begins and ends with starting pitching. So for me, Richard, it would be who kind of emerges themselves as the number 2 and number 3 starter. And what I'm most excited about is just the offensive talent. I mean, there's the 1 through 9. Truly, I don't think we've seen a talented a lineup as we're going to see in 25. So that gives me a lot of confidence in A&M's ability to score runs. And then kind of what I'm unsure of would be the back end of the bullpen. You know, we've been so spoiled the last couple of years when Evan Oshbeck comes into the game. Just kind of felt it was lights out, game over, you know, and that's certainly not normal. And we're going to have to find somebody in the back end of that bullpen to handle the game at the highest points, you know, when the pressure's on.
You mentioned the starting pitching. This is really the first time since, you know, Asa Lacy back in the 2020 season when A&M has a bona fide ace returning for Friday nights, and Ryan Prager's that guy. Then you've got Justin Lanham, who really emerged in Omaha last year, really shut down Florida on back-to-back occasions. You got transfer portal additions, whether it be Grant Cunningham or Miles Patton. Then, of course, don't forget some of the freshmen that we saw last year, whether it be a Caden Wilson, Isaac Morton. Those guys appear primed to challenge for a rotation spot, too. So a lot of options for Michael Early and Jason Kelly as far as the pitching staff goes, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Richard. They're no short on talent for sure. You just kind of figure out, you know, who fits best in which role. You know, if you look back in Texas A&M baseball history, very, very rarely, you know, the starting staff to begin the year is not even the same starting rotation when it gets to conference play. So you just kind of got to feel yourself out, feel a way out, and try to, like I said, see who fits best in each role, and that'll be the exciting part to see it unfold.
We're chatting with JB Moss, former Texas A&M outfielder, on the Boss Firearms hotline right now. JB, I kind of want to play a more than, less than game with you right now, kind of in the spirit of our sponsor Prize Picks. They do more than, less than. With Jace Lavalette, right? He's the name that draws a lot of attention. He's currently tied for second on Texas A&M's all-time home run list. He's 6 shy of tying Dalen Holt for first place. Jace has 50 career homers. 21 as a freshman in 23, 29 last year. He was 1 away from being the second Aggie to hit 30 in a single season. So if I set the number at 24.5 home runs for Lord Tubbington in 2025, are you going more than or less than?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'll take the over for Jace, over 24.5 homers. I just think, look, Jace is preseason number 1 pick in the draft. He's, you know, preseason player of the year. He's got so much pressure and expectation on him. But I think the best thing that Jace has going for him, like we talked about earlier, Richard, is the talent and the depth of this lineup. I think that he's got guys in front of him and behind him that are going to protect him. And I think Jace will get just enough pitches to hit to go over 24.5 homers.
So I mentioned it. He's at 50 right now. The program record's 56. So he's 6 shy of tying it, 7 from breaking it. About how many games do you think is it going to take for him to take the top spot on that list?
That's another good question. Let's see, he hit 29 and 24 in what, Richard, about 70 games?
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know, maybe 18 to 20 games. You know, the ball doesn't fly out as much to start the season, as you know, at Bluebell Park. So I'd say maybe 18 to 20 games, and he breaks the all-time home run record.
So 18 to 20 games, I think that puts us right around the start to conference play. So we'll be we'll keep an eye on that as we move through February and into March. Continuing with our more than, less than game, Ryan Prager, we mentioned him a moment ago, but he's an All-American in the preseason. He returns as A&M's Friday night ace. He punched out 124 batters last year in 97 2/3 innings. That's the 9th most strikeouts in a single season by an Aggie ever. So if I were to set the number at 115.5, are you taking more than or less than for the ace?
I'll take the over again for the ace. I think a couple reasons why. I think Ryan Prager, I think he throws so many strikes, Richard, that I think it keeps him in the ball game a long time. So I fully expect Ryan Prager to throw right around 100 innings again. And if we think he's going to go 100 innings, we'll take the over 115, because one of the stats you look for is more strikeouts than innings pitched. That kind of gives you a key metric if a guy's got good stuff or not. And Ryan Prager with that 3-pitch mix and that deadly changeup, I'll for sure go over 115.5.
And then the final game we're going to play here, final number, more than, less than, Hayden Schott hit .335 last year in the SEC. So for all the love he gets as the personality hire and now the newly minted 12th man of this Texas A&M baseball team, he is a damn good hitter. If you look back at his career at Columbia, he hit .333 in 23. He hit .320 in 2022. So we know he puts the bat on the ball, and when he does, it typically falls in. .335 is pretty high in this league, as you know, and you know how difficult it is to hit in this league. So if I were to set his number, his batting average for 2025 at .315, would you go more than or less than for Hayden Schott?
Man, I really feel like I'm drinking the maroon Kool-Aid today, but I'll go over the .315 mark also on Mr. Schott. Look, I think if you would have set that number at .330, I may have gone under, just because when you get to that high batting average, you really have to you have to have a lot of things go your way. You have to find some balls bounce your way. But I think, the mantra is hitters hit, and Hayden Schott has proven it to you at every level that he knows how to hit the baseball. So I think as long as that knee's healthy, I'll take the over .315. I look for him to have another solid year in maroon and white.
JB Moss drinking the maroon Kool-Aid. So typical. JB, opening day is just 24 days away. Elon will be here on February the 14th. Before we get there, though, A&M's hosting that first pitch game. It's going to be an inter-squad on February the 8th. A lot of former players planning to make their way back in town for that one. Will we see you in Aggie land in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, of course. It's really exciting what Coach Early is doing for all the former players, and there's a big group text going on. And for those that are fans and want to see the old guys around the ballpark, come out and support the 25 Aggies, and there's going to be a lot of us there, so we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Free admission on Saturday, February the 8th, 4 p.m. is when the game starts. Former players in attendance and a post-game fireworks show. Another thing I've heard a rumor of, JB, as it relates to the first pitch game is former player batting practice. Will you be partaking? And which of your former teammates do you think could still run balls out of Bluebell Park?
I'm not going to partake in batting practice. I'm going to leave that to the guys with the power.
Boo!
No, the fans want to see the guys with the big pop. I think Jonathan Maroney, Hunter Melton, Nick Banks, guys like that can still run the ball out of the ballpark. Those are the guys they want to see.
Well, JB, I appreciate you taking the time to chat some ball with me here on a Tuesday morning. And baseball's going to be here before we know it, and we'll see you in town here in just about, try to do quick math in my head, 17 days for first pitch day.
Sounds great, Richard. I appreciate you having me on. Gig 'em.
Of course, that's JB Moss, former Texas A&M outfielder, joining us on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Go ahead and take a break here, our final break of the 9 o'clock hour here on TexAgs Live. We'll close this hour here on the other side on The Zone. Just a couple minutes left here in this 9 o'clock hour on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. Guys, it's been a fun 9 o'clock hour. We talked to Justin Lanham. We talked to Joni Taylor. We talked to J.B. Moss, Nick Savage. How much fun did you have during this segment?
You know, I said something in the first segment to Kay. I was like, man, this show feels like it's going by fast. I looked at the clock, and it was only like 8:10. I was like, oh, no, this is going to be a slow show. But then good guests after good guests after good guests, especially talking baseball, football, and basketball on one show is always pretty fun.
So I think we'll do all three of those things in our next hour, Nick, right? We'll remind you of what our schedule for the 10 o'clock hour is. It's Billy Liucci at the 10 o'clock, at the top of the hour, if he answers his phone. That's always a big if he stopped playing weatherman. Probably talking college football playoff, Ags, Ole Miss. Might want to get his thoughts on Aaron Glenn, some news coming out about him. And then at about 9:35, we'll chat with one of the greatest Texas A&M baseball players of all time, Scott Livingstone. Aaron Glenn news, kind of teased it. Ian Rappaport, Nick, have you seen this?
No, fill me in.
Very early this morning, and when I say very early, 3:59 a.m. Central Time, tweeted, top target Aaron Glenn visits the Jets, and the goal is to keep him from leaving the building, sources say. The deal isn't done, and there are still some particulars to discuss, but if all goes well, he could end today as the head coach of the New York Jets. If not, the Saints await. And then he tweeted just a little bit ago, he tweeted, here's the full story about that meeting. So stuff to monitor. The Lions have already lost an offensive coordinator to Matthew Dawson's Chicago Bears, and it looks like Dan Campbell is about to lose his Aggie DC, Aaron Glenn, to the New York Jets. We'll talk with Billy Liucci on the other side. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's, here on The Zone. Top of the 10 o'clock hour here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane in the Rollo Insurance Studio, and I'm in the middle of a infantile panic attack Nick, do we have Billy Liucci? We do have Billy Liucci. Looks like my alert text worked, much to the chagrin of the boss man himself. We're going out to the Boss Firearms hotline once more as we check in with TexAgs co-owner and executive editor Billy Liucci. Good morning, weatherman.
I hope you can deal with this, Zane, because what I wasn't going to let you do, when you've successfully done it, was interrupt my snow morning walk with my dog, who loves nothing more than snow.
See, that hurts me. That hurts me that I'm doing that to you and G, because my first question was going to be, how much is Griffin enjoying the weather outside?
He's loving it, but we would like about just a little more snow, probably 3 times what we got. He had a fun night last night in it. He loves when it's falling. I was hoping to wake up to more. That was not the case. I was hoping, we'd get a little bit more, so it would at least just cover. I just didn't want to see a blade of grass when I woke up.
Yeah. Well, you know how much your employees, myself included, love ourselves some Griffin Liucci content. Could you please do us a favor and share some G in the snow content, please?
We will. Although, what he likes is playing where he can dig his head around in it and, attack snowballs, but he has none of that today. Still nice.
Well,
still snowing in College Station.
You talked about how much Griffin enjoyed last night. How much did you enjoy the football you saw last night? Ohio State, now the kings of the college football world. They beat Notre Dame in the national championship, an 11-point margin. What are your big takeaways from that one in Atlanta?
Well, I don't think that was the most enjoyable football. I mean, it got interesting there for a little bit. Notre Dame did what I thought they'd do. Kind of hung in there and made a game of it. I didn't think Ohio State was going to race out there like that. I mean, it wasn't shocking, but I thought it was going to be. If you had told me the final score was going to be, I would have completely believed you. The way it went made for some exciting moments in the fourth quarter, but hell, by then I bet a lot of people had tuned out. It was so slow and one-sided. So it was just an impressive performance from Ohio State. They were the best team in the country when it mattered most. They were the most talented team in the country pretty much all year. You would have argued them, Georgia, Oregon, Texas. I think throughout the season, if you're saying who's the most talented, I mean, those were the most talented teams, but I think Ohio State was number one on there across the board. It clearly wasn't Georgia with some of their deficiencies on offense. And then Oregon, I think, line of scrimmage and defense, they just didn't quite have enough. Ohio State proved it against Texas, and a lot of Longhorns are getting upset on social media. I see where people are saying that Ohio State controlled that game too, and I don't think they controlled the game. I think they could have had complete control of that game by halftime, and they let some real opportunities early go, stupid penalties, things like that. But they're the best team, and they look like the best team in every game they played, beginning with what they did to Tennessee. That Michigan game woke them up, and we live in a completely different world of college football now, where we live in a whole new world of college football where you can lose 2 games, and you can lose to your arch rival to end the season, and people can be wondering if your coach can do it, and you can reinvent yourself. Now, whether that would have been Penn State, sorry.
Nick, did we lose Billy?
All right.
There he is.
Hold on.
This is amazing radio content. Sounds like Griffin's having a way more fun than we are, Nick.
Yeah, well, whatever was transpiring has caused Billy Liucci to hang up the phone. So we'll get him back here in a second. But yeah, walking dogs can be a chore,
especially when you're like Billy, where everything he does is kind of distracted. He's on the phone. He's probably doing some stuff on Twitter, and he's walking Griffin.
He's talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, the man multitasks like nobody else I've ever seen. It's truly incredible. So, we'll get Billy Liucci back in a moment.
They're calling him back. Yep.
Nick, my next question for Billy, and I'll ask it to you before we get him back on the line, was we've been through the college football playoff once now, at least in the 12-team format. Were you satisfied with the result we got? Whether you're an Ohio State fan or not, were you satisfied with the format itself, and what changes do you think should be made, and would you like to see moving forward?
How about we let Billy answer that question? I think he just heard it because he's back on the air. I got him back on the line, so we'll let Billy take it away from there.
Billy, did you hear that question?
Griffin just chased down like a 2-year-old that popped out of nowhere with his mom.
Oh, my goodness.
The kid had a giant snowball in his hands, and then they both thought they were under attack by this smiling golden retriever, but he was really just trying to get the snowball. So I had to hang up. There was just total panic set in.
So you're the panicker here.
No, not me. The lady who thought the golden retriever was going to maul her kid. So anyway, going back first, I heard your question, what you were saying, but we as fans, I hope one day we as Aggie fans, but we as fans need to start, recalibrate a little bit and understand that you could be Arizona State and beat Texas and be playing in the national semifinals when no one thought you could. They didn't do it, but they certainly could have. Obviously, came down to 1 4th and 13. You can be Ohio State and really go. Well, I guess they went probably 1-2 in their 3 games that their fans gave a damn about this season. I know there was Indiana in there, but they gave a damn about Oregon, Penn State, and Michigan. And they went 1-2, including losing to your arch rival to end the season in really embarrassing fashion when you think about what your arch rival lost, including a head coach and the type of season they had, and still win a national title and do it in really impressive fashion. So, yes, the regular season matters. Obviously, you can go ask Ole Miss about that, or Alabama. You don't lose to Vandy or Oklahoma. You don't lose to Oklahoma at the end, and you're getting in by losing to Vandy. So I do like the format. I do like the fact that a team like Ohio State, that's the best team in college football, just won the national title, and I don't think they would have made the playoffs. They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have made the playoffs this year. A 4-team playoff, they're not going to be in. So I like that. I like the fact that the best team won it. I like the fact that Arizona State could have beaten Texas and been the Cinderella story of the college football season. I like the fact that James Franklin had a couple of chances to, recreate his narrative, because every game you win in there is a big one. So I like all that. What I don't like is the way they do the seeding, and I do think that they need to. Look into changing that, where those teams like ASU and Boise are not getting by.
So a change in the seeding, I know a lot of people talk about wanting more on-campus playoff games. Is that something you'd like to see, or would you just like to see it go to 16?
At this point, I'd rather just go to, At this point, I'd rather just see it go to 16. 12's an awkward number anyway. I don't think you kind of know what's going to happen with if we haven't figured out yet, is the bye a disadvantage versus a team that played the week before. Conference champions are not created equal. All conferences are not created equal. If we're going to pick the teams to make the playoffs, then you're perfectly capable of seeding them properly. There's no need to do all this other stuff. So you may as well make it 16. I think it helps for a more fair and balanced tournament, put it that way.
So other than a team A&M opened 2024 with playing and losing last night, a team that A&M will see in Week 3 in 2025, the other A&M storyline, or at least the people are thinking it's an A&M storyline, is something Ross Bjork said post-game last night. Have you seen that comment?
I don't know if I did. I think I did about buying a team versus the...
So it was Ross Dellinger tweeted of Ross Bjork, quote, "You can have all the money, all the collectives you can have, but if you don't have a foundation of leadership and culture and chemistry, then it's not going to matter. We've seen programs spend a lot of money, some even more than us, and they didn't reach this." Close quote.
What does that have to do with anything? Lead me to the finish line on that.
So the people on our forums believe that Ross Bjork is being passive-aggressive towards somebody, and of course the Aggies are freaking out thinking that it's passive-aggressive towards his former employer, Texas A&M.
It might be. I'm not going to try to get in Ross's head. It very well could be, and I really don't care. As Griffin's hanging out with the neighborhood people, so I don't want to say give a word that starts with a D and ends with an N. Some people misspell it and leave off the N. But
yeah, thank you for censoring yourself.
No, I think, you're welcome.
Cool.
But no,
cusser.
I think that he could have easily been talking about Michigan. He could have easily been talking about Texas.
My first thought was Oregon.
For that matter. Oregon, for that matter, yeah, a team that beat them and it's spending a lot. But look, Ohio State, he really doesn't have room to talk about anyone spending more than Ohio State. Their NIL, when you talk about the teams that are outspending everyone, the list includes Burnt Orange, it includes the Buckeyes, and it includes the Ducks. And that's it. Like, those are the three everyone's talking about when you're talking about outspending. So and Michigan did it with this quarterback recently. They ripped from LSU, and I think they're about to go all in. But it's those three and everyone else in college football. So no one from Austin, Columbus, or Eugene should get on any kind of soapbox when it comes to NIL. But I do think he's right about one thing. Like, Arizona State could have beaten Texas in that playoff because they were just a great team that believed. Ohio State did what they did because they had a lot of substance to go with that talent. And when they took that loss to Michigan, that substance is why they were able to regroup and say, you know what, this ain't good enough. The way we're playing, the way we played this regular season is not good enough, and we're going to go out and prove it. And so, yeah, they certainly had a lot of substance. Notre Dame's NIL is not, they're not paying their players what other teams played that were not playing last night, which is everyone else in the country except Ohio State. So, yeah, it's not just that. You better have culture. You better have, a head coach that understands how to piece together a roster and pieces that fit and plug holes, whether they're larger, whether it's like a significant roster hole or something small just to get you over the top. There's an art to all of this. And Ohio State had the best roster this year in college football. And they had the best roster, but they also had dudes that were very hungry, clearly, to win a national title. They recovered from an early season loss. They didn't win their conference. They recovered from a really bitter late season loss that could have derailed a lot of teams. And then they went to the playoffs and they just throttled everybody. They got tested late against Texas, and they stood up on the 1 yard line and said, "Not today. This is our season." So they are clearly the best. I have no No love for Ohio State. Don't really hate them. I like seeing the best team win, even though I kind of wanted Notre Dame to be the defending national champs when A&M played them next year. Now Texas will go in there and play the defending champs for a second year in a row. Hopefully they're not as depleted as Michigan was at this time, in September or back in September. But Notre Dame did. I don't think they didn't. They deserved to win if they would have pulled it out. But I think they still, they got a lot of teams that didn't have offense in their past. I still, Indiana was overmatched. They're not going to scare you offensively with their players. Then they went Georgia without Carson Beck, who was already pretty bad on offense, and then they went Penn State. So they weren't even A&M as bad as the Aggies were early in the year in that game. So I think they I watched their defense. I said, it's them and Texas. I think Texas's defense is better because they were more tested. I mean, Notre Dame went through. So I don't between that and the fact that Riley Leonard can't really complete a pass down the field. I mean, I think he completed one down the field last night to Greathouse, maybe.
And that was a 50-50 ball, right?
Yeah, and I think he completed one. Maybe it was to Greathouse against A&M as well there in the fourth quarter that was for about 20 yards. And so in those two games, two of Notre Dame's biggest, 4 or 5 games of the year, he goes 8 quarters of that with completing like one pass down the field. I mean, look, it was cool to watch them essentially run QB power down the field to start the game, but I just didn't think a team like that, I thought they could maybe win it because they just had all the intangibles and they had a good thing going, but I didn't think they were far from the best team in college football. Let's put it that way.
Luch, there's going to be plenty of stuff in College Station and Texas A&M athletics to keep us occupied from now until August 30th when UTSA comes to Kyle Field, right? Buzz Williams and the basketball team ranked 13th, a big-time matchup this week at Ole Miss, and then they've got a Lone Star Showdown game on Saturday. We know Mike Early's team's ranked number 1 in the country. There's also a lot of excitement surrounding Trisha Ford's team at Davis Diamond. But as it relates to college football, between now and when Week 0 games begin 214 days from now, what storylines from this sport are you most interested as the offseason officially starts?
Next time you're going to ask me a question like that, can you write it down and submit it to me from my secretary ahead of time, please?
Yes, next time I'll send it to Allie. Make sure she gets it to you.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that was just such a winding road. What am I most looking forward to in the college football offseason?
What storylines are you keeping an eye on?
Talk a little for Tellers. I was actually on the thread on Tech.
What?
So they played a spot on accident. We're still on.
Was that Nuno?
You did hear Nuno. The shadow Nuno. The ghost Nuno. He's not here.
Like sitting here walking, and I go, did Zane just do a random Nuno impression that was actually pretty damn strong?
It wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been strong. It would have been perfect because that was actually him. Yeah,
we're going live.
We're doing it live.
No, what's the storyline? I mean, I don't think Ryan Day is going to the NFL. I think I guess honestly, Richard, it would probably be spring portal movement because with the amount, here's what I'm gonna say, with the amount of players that an agent, and this is very agent driven now, the amount of players and agents that just will, agree to an NIL deal around college football and then come right back and change their minds when they hear what other teammates are making, what people at other schools are making, what other schools are going to continue to offer them behind the scenes. I think that spring portal window is going to be a lot more than people expect, and I think it's going to be surprising. That's one thing. Other than that, it's probably just how much they try to fix with this. When these schools start paying, from the court case, and they start paying up in places like A&M or north of $20 million, just to see when that gets completely across the finish line and what effect that has on everything from, paying student athletes to collectives to, again, going back to that portal thing. But I think the biggest thing would be the portal. I don't think we're going to see any major head coach movement. We're almost done with that anyway. So you're really talking about, honestly, you're talking about Freeman and Day. I don't see any of that. So I think it should be a fairly quiet off season in terms of like actual football stuff until this spring portal. And then I think it'll be, I don't know if nuts would be the right word, but I think it's going to be a lot more active than people think. And I think teams are going to do some players. There'll be enough significant movement where it kind of reshapes how you think of certain teams. Either ones at the top that get a big addition, or one's kind of in that pack that you go, oh, okay, maybe we need to move the Aggies up a couple spots in these preseason SEC rankings based on what they did in the spring, or down for certain teams based on, a surprising loss or two.
Well, that was a great answer to my long and winding question, Billy. Get back to walking your long and winding road. No more long winding questions for me.
All right, dude, that's enough.
Yeah.
You did so good yesterday. I don't know what happened.
I think I did better today. I've been much more confident, less panicky. I felt comfortable in this chair all day long. I just knew how to get under your skin because I was done and made you want to hang up on me. That was all.
Okay, good work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Job well done.
Woo! A compliment from Billy Liucci. Hey, Bill, thanks so much for taking the time to join me and saving me from Zane versus the open segment. Billy Liucci, TexAgs co-owner and executive editor. I did actually end up getting him to hang up on me. Time to take another break here on TexAgs Live. When we come back, we'll have a short segment. Maybe we'll get a read of the text line because we haven't done that at all today. And then at the bottom half of this hour, we'll chat with Scott Livingstone, former Texas A&M All-American. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers on The Zone. absolute banger of a song. I know Nick Savage agrees. 7 and 7 by the Turnpike Troubadours bring you back into this segment of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Richard Zane, filling in for David Nuno here inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. He will return to the host chair tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., so we appreciate you guys powering through the last 4 shows, well, 3 2/3 shows, because we're almost done with this one. Ryan Broninger, Thursday, Friday last week, myself yesterday and today. Nuno, back to your regularly scheduled programming tomorrow morning. If you're wondering why we haven't checked in with the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, Nick, could you show the Angry Elephant News and Social? Yeah, there's nobody here. We decided to go skeleton crew, keep the kids off the roadways with the weather this week. But the Angry Elephant...
Unless your name's Matthew Dawson,
yeah.
You just make your own rules. But then again, he is from Chicago.
Well,
so
I got to apologize to Matthew Dawson.
Chicago.
I think we should both apologize to Matthew Dawson. He got left off our email chain. But if there's anyone who's equipped, right? He is not. He's a very memorable member of this team. You just might overlook him because he's so small. But, yeah, if anybody's equipped to drive in this weather, it is him. Nick, checking the text line, do we have anything of note, or do you have anything of note for me, sir?
Nothing on the text line, but I do want to get your thoughts on this. I don't know, you've been hosting, so you really can't see, but obviously with your Dodger attire, I bet folks can figure out what baseball team you root for if they didn't already know. But your evil empire of a team has added to its collection of weapons with another free agent signing. They signed Kirby Yates, who this past year, oh my gosh, he's so good. 61 games, 7-2 record out of the bullpen, 1.17 ERA in 61 2/3 innings pitched. WHIP under 1. It's crazy. It's not fair at this point, but I'll allow you to gloat, but I also want your thoughts, kind of not as partisan as you can be. Do you think Major League Baseball needs a salary cap or some sort of restructuring to its, player payment system? Excuse me. How do you see that shaking out in the future?
So first things first, with the Dodger angle, 1, it's good to be king. 2, nobody would be upset if their fan base, their ownership, no fan base would be upset if their ownership group was spending the way Guggenheim Baseball Management is super committed to winning. Everything they're doing is above board, not breaking rules. If you're crying about deferrals, you obviously don't know how deferrals work. They are funded. Those contracts are funded. They're just not hitting the AAV that much. I'm interested to see what the Kirby Yates deal is, or what it's still pending physical, right? So the numbers haven't been released. I know they added Tanner Scott on Sunday to a left-handed weapon and a right-handed weapon out of the bullpen. The rich keep getting richer. If you're a Dodger fan, it's a great time to be a Dodger fan, potentially entering the golden age of baseball. As far as does baseball need to restructure, I think some of it's coming, right? I think maybe a salary cap could be in play. I don't know that the salary cap would be lower than what the Dodgers are spending right now. There are already competitive balance thresholds that teams, if you're willing to, you can go over it. You lose draft picks. But the thing about the Dodgers and an organization like that, another one that's drafted really well and developed players really well, is the one just down the road in Houston. I'll give your guys some props too. But if you lose draft picks, but you hit on the ones that you retain, then your farm system is still going to be really good, which has happened in LA, which means they have some trade capital to make deadline acquisitions if they should need them come the end of July 2025. Hopefully you don't, after you've just gone through an offseason where you signed Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki.
Yeah, I'm looking through the transactions
these
list.
arms, and it's pretty crazy what they've been doing. They've been assembling a super team. I don't think a super team is the worst thing for baseball right now. It's baseball, man. It's the most unpredictable,
especially when it's yours, right?
There. Sure, yeah, sure. Like obviously I'm biased there, but it's still baseball, and every team has the chance to win every single game. What the old adage in baseball is, everyone's going to win 50 and everyone's going to lose 50. It's what you do with those other 60 that truly count. That was still true for the Dodgers this year, right? It's likely going to be true for the Dodgers in 2025. The biggest issue pressing baseball right now is the lack of a spending floor, because what's the biggest issue I had with baseball in the entire offseason is what happened in Oakland, and the fact that Oakland and that entire fan base, that community lost its team. And I can't, I'm very rare in that I don't root for a team that is in the geographical region of where I am, but I can't imagine what Houston fans went through when the Oilers left. I went to a mall in Houston last weekend, and there's still more Oilers hats in a local store than Texans hats, which is strange to me. I can't imagine what Houston or Dallas would have to go through if the Stars or the Rangers, the Mavericks, the Rockets, the Astros ever had to leave, and that's so sad. That's not spending enough to be competitive on the field like what Cincinnati's done in the past, like what Oakland's done in the past. I think that's way more detrimental to the game than overspending. But of course, I'm biased, and it's good to be king, and they are the 2024 world champions, so I'm happy about it. We're going to go ahead and take another break here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. This segment of Los Angeles Dodgers talk is over. We won't bring them up for the rest of the show, but we are going to keep talking some baseball. Texas A&M, former Texas A&M All-American Scott Livingstone joins us on the video hotline on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Last half hour of the Tuesday edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Richard Zane inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. And to continue our baseball talk this morning, we go out to the Boss Firearms video hotline once more, where we're met with former Texas A&M infielder, two-time All-American, former big leaguer, Scott Livingstone himself. Good morning, Scott. I remember meeting you in studio a few months ago, and I remember you brought your wife with you, and learned then that she was a Buckeye nut for the Ohio State football program. So how was last night in the Livingstone household?
Well, it's a very happy household this morning. I never doubt the Buckeyes because I've seen them play all the time. Just like I watch all the A&M games, I have to watch the Buckeye games, right? Every day, every weekend. But it's a happy household to say the least. And there was some screaming and yelling and little nervousness near the end, but I had faith, and she was a true fan. She was up and down, up and down, up and down with her emotions. But it's all good. It's all good.
Well, how about this? That's enough of that. Let's talk some baseball. We know what you're doing now with the Ball 5 podcast, your first season last year. Tell us what to expect for season 2 upcoming, and then where can we find that?
Yeah, I was a little nervous to get it started because it's a little bit over my head trying to do everything myself with the technology and stuff like that and learning it, being such an old guy. But, I'm trying to expand on it a little bit more. It was all audio last year, and it's on all of them, Spotify, iHeart, all those stations, wherever you listen to your podcast. And so I want to put in maybe some video type pieces, like some smaller pieces, like maybe, as Jace continues to hit home runs, show some clips of something or talk about it or something like that. And just little things like that, and maybe expand it further down the road into a little bit more SEC stuff, just slowly kind of grow it. And it's going pretty good. I like it. It's fun. And, I get to interview the players, the Aggie players, and I mean, it's neat to pull for them and then find out that they're just solid men, too.
That's awesome. Who are some of the guests that you had during your first season doing it, and what did you learn about those players as it relates to their success and lives off the field?
It was Jace, Gavin, Grahovac, Hayden Schott, Prager. Let's see, who else did I have? I can't think who else I had, but it's just, like I said, watching them on the field and seeing how talented they are. I think a lot of it comes from their background, and a lot of them talking about their parents and supporting them when they were younger, and just, they were there for them, and everybody was in their corner to help them out and be there for them. And the guys feed off of each other as well, too, to help them be successful and challenge each other every day in little games that they play, wherever they're playing. If it's ping pong or whatever it is, they challenge each other. So a lot of their success came from their early upbringing with their parents, and then obviously challenging each other every day.
Ball 5 podcast. Find it wherever you can get your podcast. You won't be wasting your time listening to Scott Livingstone talk to these guys, for sure. Great stuff, great content. Those 4 guys you mentioned, though, Lavalette, Schott, Grahovic, Prager, a huge reason why the 2025 Texas A&M baseball team is entering this season ranked number 1 in the country. Scott, as it relates to this ball club, where's your excitement level at, and do your expectations match those preseason projections?
Expectations, yes. My excitement level is at pretty much an all-time high. It's a little bit, I'm kind of on the outside looking in since I'm not in College Station. So I haven't seen the fall ball games. I haven't seen the practices and stuff. It's basically, back in the day, it would go off the paper clippings where you would read about people. Now everything's on social media and the internet. So reading the players that we got in the portal, the freshmen that came in, the guys that are coming back, obviously the coaching staff that Coach Early has built. Expectations are high. I think there's a lot of momentum there to just keep going and just keep building the program and what they're going to put on the field. Obviously they have to get it done. The talent is obviously there, and they just got to go out and do it. And I feel that they will, and just play at a very high level like they have last couple years.
the pieces are certainly there, at least on paper. You look at this roster, and it's no doubt one of the top talented teams in the entire country. But when it comes to whether it be offensively or defense, on the mound, starting rotation, bullpen, which areas are you most confident in with this ball club, and which areas still you have reasons for concern ahead of opening day, now just 24 days away?
Yeah, well, I'm a hitter, so I love the offense. So, they're going to bang the ball around, especially with the guys that came in. If they live up to the numbers that I've seen, posted that they've had in the past, it's a solid lineup. It's a scary lineup. Concerns? I don't really see a lot of concerns. I mean, I read something the other day where Kendall Rogers, I think on D1 baseball, said something about Early's coaching in the late innings or something like that. And I was like, I could see that, him making decisions. I think, though, with pitching coach Kelly, who's been a head coach, that's going to help for him to lean on him. And, being a player's manager, I just think all the pieces are there. And I think I saw something about the back end of the bullpen because, it's tough to replace Aschenbeck, right? But I think they have the arms. There's a lot of good players. There are young players that threw last year. And it's just, I think they're going to have their options of who to put in. And somebody's going to step forward for sure. I know they will because the talent's there. And I think, the younger players, now that they've got a year under their belt, I mean, I think, it's going to help them tremendously. I mean, look at Caden Sorrell. I mean, once he started building confidence throughout the year last year, I mean, that kid's going to be a force.
I like how you started that answer, Scott, being a hitter yourself. You certainly have the credentials to back that up. Two-time All-American. Yeah, don't be humble, man. These are incredible numbers. Second in career hits, a program leader in runs, doubles, at-bats, total bases, RBIs. You know what a big league ball player looks like and what it feels like to be a big league ball player. And there's a guy that's chasing some of those numbers, a guy who's projected to go high in the draft on this ball club, Jace Lavalette. He's already making an argument to be one of the greatest ball players in Texas A&M's program history. What have you seen from him in the first 2 years of his career that leads you to believe he can indeed stake his claim to that title in his junior season?
I mean, all the tools are there. I mean, the guy hits for power. His average is good enough for the power. I mean, to hit 280, 300, I think he's just going to get better and better, and the average is going to increase. I think he's probably going to be, he could hit 340 this year. I think the expectations for him, I think as long as he can manage the noise on the outside about how good he is and the draft and things like that, which speaking to him on the Ball 5 podcast, he's just so down to earth, and he's a humble kid, and I love where his headspace is, and I think he can manage it. And I think with the players around him, the new 12th man, Hayden Schott, he's going to keep him grounded. He's not going to let him get the big head or anything like that. But he has all the tools to be a big league player, and I have I feel pretty good about it.
Scott, I wish we had more time, man. We could talk baseball all day because I'm so excited for opening day. Just 3.5 weeks away. You'll be here in town for first pitch weekend, right? On February the 8th?
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you that weekend and, of course, talking ball with you throughout the 2025 campaign. And for those of you listening, be sure to check out the Ball 5 podcast. Anywhere you find your podcast, you can get that one. It's a great podcast. You won't be sorry you did. Scott, thanks so much, and we'll talk soon again.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's Scott Livingstone, former Texas A&M All-American and a big leaguer himself. Man, baseball right around the corner. Can't wait. 24 days away until opening day on February the 14th. Final break here on TexAgs Live, this Tuesday edition of the show, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We'll wrap things up on the other side. Final segment here on this Tuesday edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. And it's time to end the day with Double Dave's. The final segment of TexAgs Live is always brought to you by Double Dave's. Nick, I want to spin this. I guess I've got, 2 minutes and 20 seconds now? Just want to spend the next few minutes saying thank you. Thank you to you, Mr. Nick Savage, helping me through the last couple of days. I don't think you get enough love publicly on the air for how much you do for us and producing all of this great content, whether it be TexAgs Live, NIL interviews, or anything really out of the studio. You and your team, you guys are a bunch of rock stars. You know that?
I appreciate it, Richard. You did a great job these past 2 days filling in for old David and Kay, doing a great job. She's picking up the slack, doing social content for us, and then the rogue man himself, Matthew Dawson. He wasn't even coming in to work on radio stuff, but he said, you know what? Here I am. Let me go to work. And he's been pumping out stuff for us too.
And I'm glad you brought them up. I was going to do the same. Kay Nagley, managing all the content the last few days without my help. Usually I'm there. It's a tag team thing. But obviously sitting in this chair, can't help her out. She's been a rock star as well. And she's going to have to pick up the slack even more as I head out to vacation. Matthew Dawson, next time we tell people, you get an email from Josh and Jacob that says, don't come to the office on the snow day. We expect you to listen. This is a great learning experience for you, Mr. Dawson. Although, of course, we're always happy and thankful that you come through and do the work that you do. Matthew Dawson, congratulations on your new head coach of the Chicago Bears. Your ownership didn't mess it up this time. Wow, shocking. That's the most surprising thing of the week, honestly. Nick, tomorrow, David Nuno's back in the host chair. What are some of the things we can expect to have on tomorrow's Wednesday edition of TexAgs Live?
Well, we got Brad Logan. He's an Ole Miss insider. We'll preview the Aggies and Rebels hoops game. Got John Harris, Coach Pat Henry. Tom Schuberth will be in studio, recruiting country with Jason Howell because Bronny's out, and pounding the rock with Luke and hopefully Tap.
Did I call it TexAgs Radio at all during the last couple of days?
I think you did one time.
Dang it! It's been a failure. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in and spending the last couple of mornings with us. David Nuno back tomorrow. Louis next. Thanks for tuning in.